more. I've been here 9 years at St. Ignatius. Wendy Schmeekler is up on the control panel up there. Wendy, you just got re-upped to your national boards just last year.
2013.
Yes, and I believe I'm in my 6th year.
I'm here as well.
Yes. So I'll have to re-up it as well, too. So again, welcome here, National Board Certified. It's a beautiful, beautiful day because it's really kind of the first step of this great, great journey. And it's all about you. It's all about you. Long term, yes, it's about the kids and the students and what that gives you. But this is about your professional development. And this is just a really great, cool, wonderful journey to go on. Wayne, can you go to the next slide, please? So we're looking at, this is how we'll phrase the next 20, 25 minutes. We hope that there's about 10 or 15 minutes at the end for some questions. But we'll look at the who, the when, the why, the what, and the how of the national boards. You don't really see these questions in this order, so to speak. But we thought for the presentations, this is a good way to phrase it. Next slide, please. So who gets nationally board certified? You guys.
Where did you get that picture?
Look, we all look at Anna Kennedy. Not Anna Kennedy. Scott Jarvie, if you look at it, it looks like somebody hit Scott Jarvie here in the face. Matt Flynn, yes, Mr. Swiley. Cool people. Very, very cool people. So this is us. This is us as a community of teachers and learners. And you will get nationally board certified. If you're serious and you're committed to this, it is not a difficult process. And yes, it takes time and it takes effort, but it is totally, totally doable. Anybody want to take a guess how many nationally board certified teachers there are in the country?
How many teachers in the country?
Yeah, let's start there. How many teachers in the country, John? Anybody know?
3 million.
3 million. John, you did your homework.
Well,
How many nationally board certified teachers of those 3 million? It's just over 3 million, but anybody want to take a guess?
is it 100,000?
About 110,000. That's less than 4%. So it can be somewhat daunting to say, exclusive club to belong to. Not really. Yeah, there's a small percentage of teachers that are nationally board certified. But again, it's doable. It's a very distinguished feather to put in your cap. And again, it's doable. Next slide. So when do we get nationally board certified? When do we get the process? Next slide. Again, the first step is right now. You've already taken it, which is great. When do you get it? Now, don't. This is a test. If you think in terms of the year, plant the seed. If in terms of 10 years, plant trees. If in terms of 100 years, teach people. Who said that?
John.
No, I did, but it wasn't.
Who originally said that? Anybody know?
Confucius.
Yes, Tegan. Very good. Confucius. Beautiful. Wise man. Yes. Another quote for you. The best thing about the future is that it comes one day at a time.
Miller. Not Miller.
Is it?
No, I know.
Oh, I should. I didn't get a joke.
Another wise man. Another wise man in this country. Here's Abraham Franklin. Abraham Lincoln. So yes, two smart people talking about time, talking about now and time and how time works. Let me show you a quick clip, 2-minute clip of another very, very wise man talking about time, much more relevant to today's world. We're going to go for it. We're definitely going to go for it. Let's watch and enjoy. Not Sinatra. We'll listen to him in a little bit, but this guy.
Do you know what that is? And I say, yes. I hate to disappoint you, but there is no time. There is no time. I don't mean there's no time. I mean there's no time. When the hell is it? We made that whole thing up. There's no time. We made it up. It's a man-made invention time. There are no numbers up in the sky. I looked. They're not there. ready to step up. When is it? When the hell is it? When are we, I ask? When are we? Sometimes we think we know where we are, but we don't really know when we are. When the hell is it? All time zones are different. Every calendar you run across is different. They'll all give you a different answer. These are calendars. These are made to keep track of time. That's what I said before. Chinese way up there, 5,000 and 6,000. Hebrew calendars way up 5,000 and 6,000. We're open about 1970 something shit. This ain't a couple of weeks these people are off. This is thousands of goddamn years. We don't know when the hell it is. It could be the middle of last month for all we know. I mean, time is so, we got it down so perfect that every 4 years we have to stick in an extra day just to make sure it still works. We call it February 29th. Oh shit, it's March 1st and I know it. It just feels like March 1st. You can't keep track of time. What's the sense? Getting it done. There's a moment coming. It's not here yet. It's still on the way. It's in the future. It hasn't arrived. Here it comes. Here it is. Oh, shit, it's come. There's no now. There's no now. Everything is in the near future or the recent past. But there's no present. Welcome to the present. Gone again. It's just so imprecise.
All right, so why do you get your national board certification? Here's where we want you to do a little talking. Talk to your neighbor, take a couple minutes, we'll play a little song. I asked the students a couple of weeks ago when I did just a quick conversation, think, pair, share, what song do you want to play or what song do you want to hear when we do this? And somebody immediately said, Frank Sinatra, Fly Me to the Moon. I thought, where did you get that? You're like 15 and you're listening to Frank Sinatra. So we'll listen to a little Frank Sinatra. Next slide, Wendy. So yes, why do you obtain your National Board of Situation? Why are you here? Why do you want to get National Board certified? Talk for a couple minutes and then we'll open it up to the big meeting.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars, let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
And that's why you're here. Why would we go through this big long, lengthy, time-consuming, effortful process to get National Board certified? Yeah, Karen.
This is probably affirmation of your teaching skills. It's a way to show everybody, yeah, I want to do it.
Sure. Okay, so again, it's that distinguished feather in your cap. It's an affirmation of yourself and what you do. Good. Other thoughts? Russell?
I got a family, I need to get paid more.
Money. Yeah, the money is a good thing. Definitely. Who else? Matt?
Nate and I were talking about the reflective process on your teaching the meta definition.
Sure, just like critical analysis of yourself and what you do. I will not show you videotapes of myself.
Not yours, it's
Five
just
or 6 years ago, pre-iPad, I was up in room 241 and I was with the students and everything was great. But it's very, very eye-opening to see yourself on tape. If you look in the back there, there's a video camera taping this for the Singing Nations portfolio. But when you're going through this process, whether it's the Singing Nations portfolio coming up or the National Board certifications, there are a couple instances where you'll have to videotape yourself. And it's a great critical analysis to look at yourself and how you stand, how you sound, how you smile, all those wonderful things that come forward in that lengthy part of the National Board certification where you videotape yourself. Good. What else? What else? Why else get National Board certified?
In the context of what you're describing, what Matt is describing, I think having a specific method and process and ultimately a product that is intended to be clear enough for another human being who is in this business to understand is a really valuable thing, because this reflective practice is something that any good teacher does on a regular basis informally and discusses with colleagues or with your spouse or whatever. But I think there's a certain amount of refinement to your thinking, to your analysis that's forced by this process and by the accountability.
Good. Yeah, and we're already doing this. A couple slides later, we'll show you the Ignatian paradigm. Right? It's all about experience, reflection, and action. That's all it is. That's all it is. There's a big graph there, but then we'll simplify it and we'll just say, here's these 3 boxes that we're all doing every single day. So because we're already doing this, you just go that one step further and get the national board certification. Thought of reasons why not. Any detriments? Anything stopping you?
Time.
Time is cost.
Time, but remember, time's like this, right? Money, okay, so there's a cost. The cost was just lowered. We'll go over that in just a moment. I believe, I don't want to speak too soon, the principal's in the room. Will St. Ignatius cover costs?
Yeah, St. Ignatius does cover the cost for you to get board certified, nationally
There
board
we
certified.
go. Okay, I believe it was $2,500, the cost was down to $1,900, and St. Ignatius will cover the cost. How generous, how great. So again, money's not a detriment, time is not a detriment. What else? What else is a detriment? The time, the money. Again, it's paid for.
Fear.
You have 5 years to do it. 5 years.
5?
To start the process. Yes, they used to, I believe, do it in 2. So they encourage 1. You could do it 1 if you really wanted to go for it. Get it all in 1 year. But they give you 5 years to do it.
Awesome.
Think about how much older you'll be in 5 years. You have time, you have the money. What else? Any other detriments? I'm trying to make this easy. Fear?
I'm not that smart.
Why are you one of the smartest people in the building?
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
And you can turn down.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
Rejection.
that's a very real thing.
Okay.
And maybe I don't know if that's what you're getting at, but.
Partly.
Yeah, I understand. That's real. That's definitely real. I don't want to downplay that at all. I know this is kind of tongue in cheek, but yeah, that's a real thing. But think about where we teach, and think about who we teach. Many of you, I think, would agree this is one of the best high schools in the country, if not the world, right? And our students here are some of the smartest kids in the world. So if we can handle them, we can handle this.
And can I say too,
Sure.
you know, there are 5 national board certified teachers in this building, and there's new contract negotiations going on in Oak Park where I live. And there's a big, article in the paper this week about, and they're folding national board, and there's only 4 in the entire district in D97. And Oak Park, there's 5 in our building. So I think we get used to a certain level of performance because we work side by side, people are performing at a pretty high level. So when we take into account like our daily performance might be driven by the motivation of, keeping up with our peers in a positive way. So I think we stack up well comparatively. I think there's only 4 or 5 in Trier. Last I spoke to my colleague up there.
Yeah, if you think, again, less than 4% of teachers across the country have this. And you think of the school that we're in, the people that we work with, the people that we are colleagues with, the people that we teach, yeah, very, very doable. Fear of rejection, sure, of course, that's real, but you get over that barrier, knowing that it's paid for, knowing that you have a lot of time, knowing that it's very doable, there's people in the building. It's doable. It's doable. All right, a little bit more specific. What is the National Board Certification? It goes back to the 80s, right, where people said, oh, our education system is in trouble, and we have to fix this, and we have to address how can we become better educators for the future, the students. And so this situation and this program was set up. In a nation preparing teachers for the 21st century, the task force called for strengthening standards in teaching and professionalizing the teaching workforce. It's relatively new. It's relatively new. Next slide, please. So again, it's going on its, 30th year? A couple of years ago, it was 30 years old. National Board Certified Teachers have demonstrated that they have met the profession's highest standards for accomplished practice for a rigorous, performance-based, peer-reviewed process. This is kind of built by us, for us, reviewed by us. It's all teacher-centered, teacher-focused. So you get a lot out of the whole process of national certification.
Okay, so I'm going to go into the nuts and bolts, which is, I think, why a lot of you are here. The National Board has established and we've maintained these 5 core principles of teaching since its inception. And these are very familiar to us. It's everything we've been doing with our new evaluation grid. It's the same bullet points. We're committed to our students. We know our subjects and we know our students. We manage and assess in a meaningful way. We think and reflect on what we do, and we collaborate with our peers. There's nothing new about the 5 core principles, but this is what they're looking for when they assess your portfolio and your videotapes. They have this very complicated architecture of effective teaching, and if you have a chance to really look at it, you'll see, next slide, it really is, and this struck me more so, I think, when I did my renewal 2 years ago than when I did my initial certification. It's the IPP. It is the IPP. If you look at the steps of their roadmap, it's the same thing we do: context, experience, reflection, action, and evaluation. It really is. And you can even write about that when you create your portfolios. I actually work in a system that has a similar paradigm and philosophy of education. So that is helpful from our perspective. Now, so really, what is it? There are 4 components to the total submission. This process was revised significantly. The revision started in 2013 because it's a board of teachers assessing teachers. They've been paying attention to feedback, and those very obstacles you articulated, time and cost primarily, they were finding as barriers for people to pursue it. When Josh and I did it, I had 1 year to do it.
I had 1 year as well. I believe I had 2, but I did do it in 1.
You have, yeah, so you do it in 1. We used to do it in 1. If you failed any of the 4 components, you get score reports. You could retry that component within a year. So you had 2 years to pass it. Now, you have 3 years to submit all 4 components. And you have 2 tries to remediate any weak areas, but you must complete all of it within 5. So the first component, I'm going to go to the next slide, I'm going to go back and forth, is we'll give you all this. It's content knowledge. You go to a testing center. I went to one of the Prometric testing centers downtown. I've been there. And yeah.
Really help with inviting.
Bang with walls,
Increasing
computer.
I walked into mine, and it's a surrealist thing. I'm walking in the lobby of this big building, like Steve Lord goes walking by. Steve, and he's with these Marine Corps buddies, and then he told me later that he was getting together with some of his old Marine friends, but it's really weird seeing Steve in the building. And then I get up to the testing center, and like Jane Delaney sitting down there, like waiting to take another test for something else. So it was a strange experience.
So you take a content area test. They make sure you know your stuff. So be it math, be it biology, English literature. You take content area exams. That's the first part. And then the second part is they give you student work. And you assess student work. So not only do you need to know your content, you need to know how to teach or assess your content. That's the first component. So that's the test.
Right, well, I didn't test.
And part 2, 3, and 4 used to be this big binder. This is my original submission. We'll have this. This is all submitted electronically now. Part 2 is differentiation instruction. You take, in my case, 2 students and you track them throughout the year in the development in reading and writing. So you assess where they are at the beginning, and you track with student samples and materials that you provide, or artifacts that you include, and then you narrate on what you've done over the course of the year to meet those students' needs. That's part 2. Part 3 is the videotaping. And when we did it, this part has been revised, so I haven't looked at the specific requirements of this. Is we had to videotape a large group class and a small group interaction. And then you reflect on what you see in the videotape. All of this is married to their published, there's 25 of these, 1 for every content. These are their standards. Okay? So you, in your narrative, are explaining how what you did matched up to standard 4, fairness, equity, and diversity. So, you know, they revise partly because of ongoing and new research. And so research on what makes effective teaching. And this is a different standards book. This is the one I got with my renewal. Slightly different than the one I had in 2003 for my initial. So part 3 is the videotaping. And then part 4 is your involvement in the community. So the community of peers, students, and the larger community. So you have to document how what you're doing is impacting impactful beyond your immediate classroom.
That's it.
Next.
I had a couple things I wanted to say. I think for this one, I was reviewing, over the last week or so, I was just reviewing some of my materials, and I did a pretty lengthy, summer seminar through the Newberry Library, maybe 6-7 years ago, that I pulled in. Tim Wesley and I, some of you know Tim Wesley at the Loyola Academy, we took a trip to the Civil Rights tour in the South, and down in Birmingham and Memphis. So I included some pictures and some reflections about that. There was another thing that I did through, I think I put in, there's probably 7 or 8 of them that you're going to have to put in. So it's pretty intensive. But again, the work that we do here at Ignatius was, I put about coaching, when I was coaching soccer, that was one of them. So all these things that you're doing already in your school and out there in your community, this is kind of part 4 where it's this hodgepodge of all this other stuff you do outside of the classroom.
Part 4 is.
Part 4, yes.
Parts 2 and 3, they really do want you to be able to articulate that you know your research, you're up on what's happening. So, journal articles that you're reading or in services that you've been to, they're looking to see that you are assessing and reflecting on research as you're creating your classroom environment. And they're very, as teachers, one of the most maddening parts, very rigid about formatting and page length and word count. I mean, I just remember editing down to it. So it's a pretty dense, there's a page max, page minimum, but it's pretty, you gotta pack a lot into a short amount.
Wendy and I agree. I think a lot of National Board Certified teachers agree through this process. 50% of the entire thing is wrapping your head around this thing, and we're going to give you this, a very initial beginning guide. So this and this, once you can kind of wrap your head around it and read it and highlight and understand what they want you to do, 50% of it. The rest is just going out and again, tracking students and looking at their papers and videotaping their classes, which is kind of a big deal. Again, 50% of it is just wrapping your head around this, reading it, and trying to figure out exactly how should I format it, and what should I say, and what time to the standards. But again, the standards of St. Ignatius here, and what we already do, typically the same. So it's really the same.
Yes. If I were to do it again, I would spend summer going through this, so that when it came fall, I have sense. You kind of have to feel out those first couple months what's going to arise with students and, changes in your curriculum that you want to attack. This is part of the revision process. So components 1 and 2 were only available this year, the revised components. So this academic year, applicants were able to complete components 1 and 2. Next year, component 3 will be available, and in 2016-17, the last component. So you wouldn't even be able to, if you wanted to start next year, complete this in 1 year. You have to wait for that last component to be revised. Does that make sense? Yes. It's $475 per component is the breakdown. John?
When you can still take, because 101 I think was the exam. Can you still take that exam?
Good question.
before
Yeah,
you-
I have the answer. We're going to give these in the guide.
Yeah.
February.
They have very, surprisingly, school, strict deadlines, so they do cycle by academic year.
Okay.
So starting after a certain date, you can apply for the next year, money due at a certain time.
It seems like the registration window is
For
still open.
semesters. Oh.
February 28th.
Yeah.
So again, if you're really committed and you really want to jump on this, you still have a couple weeks. All you have to do is register. The fee payment deadline is February 28th, and again, you'll have this in your guide. It seems like the component 1, you can take the content test first. That window is March 26th to June 15th. So there's a window there in the late spring or the summer where you can knock out the first component again, which is the test. There's no way to study for it. If you're a science teacher, English teacher, math teacher,
We presume you all know it.
yeah, you can go past the
By
test.
virtue of being hired.
I mean, it takes time. It takes probably 3 hours maybe.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be bad to just review the standards when you're doing your constructive response.
Sure.
You're using their target language,
So the fastest you can complete it would be,
Right.
I started next year would be 3 years. If it's component 3,
No, component 4 would be available
Oh, okay.
that academic year.
Okay.
So you can do it too.
Okay.
Other questions? Yeah, sure.
You said there's a subject area
Mhm.
test, so, for example, we're science
Right.
teachers. Is that all science?
You have to look at your specifics, and we'll give you the link to, there's one whole, the NBPTS website is robust, but it's very intimidating to navigate, and even I will find something like, where did I find that information? But I found the direct link to the 25
So did you
content
take
areas.
all social studies area tests?
I had to take all American, Brit, World, Grammar, I mean, it was all folded into English.
Okay, all of them.
I remember on my test, there was a question about the Crusades, and I'm like, I don't know the Crusades that well. I just winged it, and I passed. It was at one point that it was the one part of the test where I thought, oh, that was really the weak question, I didn't know about that, I think I did okay, but I don't know. But yeah, I think I want to say it's the umbrella of the.
Yeah.
But I don't know if science distinguishes, physics, and you have to look at it, probably not.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
We have a couple more details. So to be eligible, you have to have a valid Illinois teaching license, bachelor's degree, 3 years of teaching experience, you can currently teaching, and you have to pay the fee. So again, it's $475 per component if you intend to do it that way. Tony?
I remember that it was 3 years teaching experience in one school initially. Does it matter whether you're in one school or not?
No, I don't think it does.
Okay.
So it's new teachers in the first year, the second year, and they want to start, as long as you have 3 years teaching at your level.
But I'll look at
Josh,
that.
does it be in Illinois? 3 years in Illinois.
It's the
Oh.
national board certification.
No.
I agree, but I also dealt with ISB, and they have all sorts of fascinating.
When I did my third year was from DC.
Okay.
But again, unless it's been revised.
Okay.
We only have a couple more slides, and then we'll go to the website and actually just kind of tag on. So good questions.
So resources, the NBPTS website, of course, which again, we'll give you a couple direct links through there because this thing is everything. The Illinois State has a whole resource center dedicated to helping Illinois residents earn national board certification. They even run workshops and mentoring. I don't know how much of that is fee. But most importantly, we can help you. And I have to say, those are about us. If you decide to do this, I mean, I found it was helpful. I did it the year Aileen Heinke was here, and she said, oh, we should do this. I was like, I was pregnant with my first baby. We just went, I was like, I don't have time. And she was like, we are going to do this, And she rode me. I mean, we did it together. She was always like, 3 weeks ahead of me. And she cheerleaded, she kicked my rear. I mean, you just kind of need someone to just push you along. And even my renewal, I was at home. The nice thing about renewal is I was home for 5 years, but they acknowledged that very clearly in their literature, that in that 10 years from your initial, you may move on to an administrative position, you may do other things, but you have the opportunity in your renewal to go back and guest teach. You still have to videotape your teaching. So I was able to come back here, and I popped into Elaine Mueller's Brit Lit class for a couple days, and I was a guest teacher, and that was totally fine. But even in the renewal process, you can start renewing in your 9th. I waited till my 10th. Of course, Aileen did it her 9th. All of her 10th years, she was emailing me, honey, we cannot let this lapse. So if you need us to just, encourage you and push you through, we will do that. The videotaping, I would say, was probably the hardest part just logistically. Father John Belmonte was here as a complete tech guy. He did all my videotaping for me. They're very particular about no editing, no panning in. So they're very particular about the videotape requirements. Josh and I, and maybe some of these others, I would be happy to do that for you because I know what a pain that part is. And if I can take that part off your mind and say, on the camera, just do your thing, we can help you do that.
And this is the school's campus here. It's set up in the back. It's their tripod. It's easy to do. It's, again, not the hardest part of it at all. Again, I think the hardest part of it is when you get started, it's wrapping your head.
Yep. Yep.
We'll start that, right?
And I have a couple brainstorming sessions with colleagues. And
Sure.
what would be, you just hammer stuff up and edit things if you just need a fresh set of eyes to look at it. So, we're here to help.
So in closing, one more quote.
These are judges.
Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for, right? We're all beautiful teachers. We're all teachers that many of us, when we were younger, we thought, oh, I have this calling to teach, and it's a noble profession, and can I do it? Remember when you stepped into that first classroom of kids? Do you remember that? Oh, man, I was nervous. That was one of the nervous things I've ever been. Humboldt Park Middle School, oh my gosh, what was I doing there? But I'll never forget it, it was beautiful. Now we are teachers, and we're at this beautiful school, and now you're thinking about National Board certification. It's totally doable, right? Curious. Good luck. Good luck and have fun with this, okay? That's all we have. We're going to give you a handout right now. This is the guide right from the National Board website. So feel free. We did email you this presentation, so feel free to play around with the links. We're here for questions.
The last thing I would say is, Mary Kay's reminding me of something. I have found every time I have called them, they are when you get a live person on the phone, Illinois State Board of Education, they're immensely helpful. I've had very specific questions, and my experience calling them with particular questions about does it have 3 years consecutive, fabulous help I've always received.
Ladies and gentlemen, your questions? Again, we have time now. If you do, feel free. We'll just be kind of walking around the room. But again, feel free to go to the website, look at the guide.